So, Andy, there's something that I did want to talk about. Firstly, do you know who Mike King is?
Now, please tell me more.
Okay.
Mike
Mike King
King?
is he's a living legend in New
Right.
Zealand. He's had a long, outstanding career as a comedian.
Yeah.
And most recently, although probably not that recent, he's been going for a few years. He's been running Gumboot Friday.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He's the organization behind that movement. And what's really inspiring about the work that he's doing is he's really getting into the trenches of mental health issues at school children level, at kids.
Wow.
The work that his organization is doing is unlike any other organization in New Zealand in that they're actually getting runs on the board. So all the money that is accumulated and collected through various fundraising events, they put towards paying counsellors and psychologists to man a 24-hour phone line. Because what they were finding is that when they started to look in the suicide rates in youth, they started to figure out what is the root cause, what is happening, and why are kids committing suicide? Why do we have some of the highest rates in the world?
So sorry, New Zealand has some of the highest rates of youth suicides in the world?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Shocking. It's shocking. Considering, this is a beautiful country.
It's an amazing country.
Our issues compared to war-torn countries are, slim to none.
Wow.
Which is a whole nother topic that we can pick up on.
Okay.
But the work
I never knew that fact, but okay.
The work that Mike King and his team are doing is phenomenal, because what they found in their research is that kids really didn't have anybody to talk to. They would signal that, hey, I'm feeling suicidal, but then you go into a wait process to see a counselor. And
how long is that wait process?
I'm not entirely sure, but it's too long.
It's too long?
It's too long.
Okay.
When somebody says that, hey, I'm on the brink, I'm on the edge, man.
Yeah.
Like, you need to react.
And especially when it's a youth.
Especially when it's kids.
The future of our country.
Exactly. There needs to be something closer to the problem. And so what he did is he created this organization. They fundraise and they actually hire full-time counselors and psychologists to man a 24-hour phone line. And what that does is it allows kids to get that support immediately when they need it, which is phenomenal. Yeah. I was fortunate enough to meet with Mike King about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And the research that these guys are doing, whilst they're doing all of this good stuff, and I'm only scratching the surface on what they do. Yeah. They've been going out and actually getting data from school kids, and especially those who are vulnerable. Yeah. And the one thing that absolutely blew my mind, it rearranged my mind for the rest of my life. Right. Is they asked the question of suicidal kids, why didn't you go to your parents for advice? Why didn't you go to your parents for support?
Because that's the first place you'd look.
That's logically the first place that you would go to your guardian.
Yeah.
And the common response was, it's because parents and guardians look like they have their stuff together. They look like they have a perfect life. So how would they? Well, they're not going to be able to help me because I'm a mess.
Is that because there's a common practice that you don't fight in front of your children?
That's right. It's so many things,
Really
we think that we're doing the right thing by going, no, I don't want to display poor behaviors or negative behaviors in front of the kids, but actually we just need to be more authentic and we need to be more honest with kids. I mean, just taking that example for one, just taking that for an example, when we don't fight in front of our kids, what is the knock-on effect? When that child is in a relationship 10, 15 years later, and they've never seen a healthy way to resolve conflict,
right?
Where does that leave them in that relationship? What happens?
Because they don't know whether to fight or flight.
That's right. Common response.
How do you react? Because I haven't seen my parents react that way.
That's
but that
right.
also doesn't mean I've got to fight in front of my kids. I've got to find a way to fight in front of my kids in a healthy manner.
Exactly.
Interesting.
So interesting.
Wow.
It really changes.
That's something I've actually never thought about.
Yeah. And so like that's the power of emotional intelligence. You know, we talk about EQ being, 80% more effective than IQ in terms of life success.
Yeah.
And emotional intelligence is just so powerful. You know, if you just look at your kids and you just look at the health of your family, like, it's life-changing.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I wish people would pay more attention to EQ, even in a workspace and their personal life, everywhere.
Yeah. It's so needed.
Yeah. I wish I'd pay a little bit more attention, to be honest. Let's start there. Start with the self.
It is. And that's exactly what EQ is. I mean, when you break down emotional intelligence, what is it? You have to know yourself before you know others.
Yeah.
In the scientific sense, emotional intelligence is broken down into 4 aspects.
Right.
It's emotional literacy of self. So can I recognize the emotions within myself and how I feel? The second part is what do I do with those emotions? How do I self-regulate? How do I process? And then you start, the third part is, now that I can recognize emotions in myself, now I can recognize emotions in another person.
And now I can form ways to relate.
Exactly. And that's the fourth part, is relating. Because I know how to process and self-regulate, I know how to be with this person when they're in this emotion.
Yeah.
And that is your basics around emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And if we can work on that and change people's lives, you're not only changing that individual's life, but you're changing the kids' lives.
Yeah.
You're changing the team's life.
Yeah.
You're changing your communities. Like, just a phenomenal tool that can cost anywhere between $0 to over $1 million. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many ways that you can increase and improve your emotional intelligence.
Well, I wish more construction companies took that approach.
100%.
Yeah.
Gains. You want to talk about gains? That's the gain right there.
Right there.
I mean, so often, companies are so good at maximizing their physical assets, but we're just missing the boat. We're missing a huge opportunity with maximizing our people.
But you see a lot of these construction companies say the right things. How many of them are doing the right things?
Oh, probably very few.
Yeah. So it's all the right words are coming out in social media. Yeah. And we've all seen it.
Yep. We've all seen it.
We've all seen it.
And I would argue that that's because of the capabilities of the leaders. So often we promote people into leadership positions because they're kicking goals and, taking names and all that. But we often find that people are picked up from that old position and plopped into a leadership position with very little training, very little support. And you know yourself, when you move from a team space into a leadership space, the time that you spend on your technical tasks reduces and the time that you spend on your people tasks go up.
Yeah.
And it's only soft skills that's going to help you deliver that aspect really
and get the best out of your people.
100%.
Create that community.
Create the community.
There we go.
Look after your EQ.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Cool.